Hi, I'm making a game about a sad Mars rover, and this week I made a feature that literally saved my indie game. But you'll have to wait and see, because for now, there's some other important things I want to show you. Quick intro this week, let's just get right into the nitty gritty, nitty gritty? What is that even? What's a nitty? So, here we are in the first level, and before, if you wanted to go for a wee, or a snack, or if you wanted to jump out a window, as I often do, then you would have to just leave the game running. You'd have to just let Perry slide down on a side, crash into the satellite. But no more, for I have added a pause menu. Isn't that incredible? Aren't you mind blown, like all over the three people that watch this? So, pauses, you could go to the level select screen, you go to the menu screen, you can restart the level, bam, like that. Isn't that impressive? I'm impressed. Aren't you impressed? So it works very simply. Let me quickly show you how that happens. So before, you had a level end screen for if you completed the level, and a level restart screen for if you crashed. Although it's quite hard to crash because it's only if you turn fully upside down. Gonna fix that later, but that was there. But now we have this pause screen here. And what this does is, in the game controller, which is in every level, you have this little thing here where if the player input.pause. If you press the pause button, then it calls this pause level thing, which shows UI screen 2, which is the pause menu, and we call pause level in UI over here. So pause level, if we're not paused, then we set it to paused, and timescale equals timescale 0, which just means that the game doesn't move while it's paused. That's what it's paused, guys. How can I can't say it any clearer. It is paused. Paused. It sounds weird now. So, timescale equals 1 if we are already paused. So it unpauses. And then you hide the screen and you set pause to false, so then next time. We can just keep doing this forever. You can unpause it and pause it literally as many times as you want, because I'm that generous. But this pesky line here, this pesky timescale is it's finicky, you know. Have you ever heard the phrase time is a fickle bitch? Because she is a tricky majesty. So what would happen is sometimes you'd pause the level, and I don't know if you remember the incredible pause level. Let me show you again. Pause menu. Pause. Look at all these buttons. Only one of them gets rid of it. The other ones restarts the level, or it takes you to the main menu. And that's so many options that my tiny brain couldn't comprehend how many different ways you could get back into a level. So what would happen is, initially, the pause screen would be paused and we'd pause the timescale, but we wouldn't unpause the game. So if, say, I got rid of this line somewhere in here, this one, I know how my code works. So if we didn't have this here, let me just get rid of that for a second for you. Let me show you what I mean. Say I play the game and then I restart. Oh, not restart. If I go to the main menu and then I play, I can't move. What's going on? The time scale's not been changed. It's oof. So we had to have this little line here so that no matter what, if the time scale was set to 0 when the level started, then we fix it. We just say, you know what, that's a boo-boo, we've not changed it somewhere, so we'll change it here. Easy. Done. But the UI work is not over, my friends. No, I will show you once I complete a level. Give me, I don't know, half an hour. God, I need to make her faster. There once was a ship that went to sea, and the name of the ship was Little Perry, and Little Perry was really slow. Please go faster, Perry. Oh, it's really hot. It's like 25, 26 degrees here. It's too hot. I've turned my fan off so I can record, so you can hear all of my lovely button clicking, because I'm sure you'd love to. But I'm so hot, guys. It's too warm. Anybody else too warm? I'm too warm. I bet Perry's not too warm. It looks nice and cool on this atmosphereless planet. Is there an atmosphere? I don't think there is an atmosphere, because you can see space, right? If there was an atmosphere, you'd see a sky. Well, it's a sky box. Maybe there's an atmosphere box. Ooh. Can a sky box? No, but the clouds got you covered. Cloud cover. Did I mention I'm too hot? I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. Right. Satellite placed, we'll fly back. Jesus, Perry, you're drunk. Crash. Come on, come on. Oh, flipping hell. Wow, Perry, you're a terrible driver. As if I'm not the one controlling it. Come on, we're nearly there. Oh, what? Oh, what a tit. Oh, I've done a boo-boo gang. I've got some comments out here so that I don't have to... Ugh, I'll explain later. Fly there, fly back. Alright, I'll be back in a minute. Hey, there we go. So, now that we've finished, you can see all of these stats. Look, mission time, 175 seconds. I sat in silence for 175 seconds for you. Do you know how important... I don't think I've ever been silent for 175 seconds before. Power used, I used 163 powers. And I spent 89 seconds looking up. Ah, so these are going to be tracked across your save, and I'm going to total up how much power you use, how much time you use, because I think it's going to be cool at the end of the game, because, you know, this is all about Perry as a character. It's all about wanting to feel sorry for her, wanting to personify her, wanting her to enjoy her time, even though she's a robot, but she's a very cute robot. So I want the end of the game to be punctuated by these stats to show you what Perry has achieved through her lifetime. So time looking up, that'll be like, it'll end the game and you go, oh look, Perry, oh, on the planet, oh, she spent this much time looking up. Isn't that cute? Isn't that sad? Hopefully. You might just think, what? So the way that works is I added some new timers in, not this one, in this one. So in here we have the lookup timer, which set to 0, and then if you're looking up, then we just add how many time.delta times. That's the time in between each frame. So update gets called once a frame. This is a fixed update. Oh well, so it should still work. So it gets called at a certain interval, and it will say, right, add how much time we were looking up the last. To be honest, that might not work. I should probably check that. But for now, it's roughly right. Yeah, you know, it'll be fun. And then also, I added total power use, which here, whenever we subtract power from the battery, which is calculated through here, then we update how much we've used, basically. Yeah, that's it. That's it, what he's still here for. And then finally, in the level controller, we have the level timer, which is much the same as the other one, only this is in a normal update, not a fixed update. So, I don't know if I explained that properly. So fixed update is called at set intervals. So say if you have a really slow machine and a really fast machine, one's going at 10 frames a second, one's going at 1,000,000. The fixed updates will get called at exactly the same time on both machines. It doesn't matter about frame rate. Update gets called every frame. So time.delta time is the amount of time between the last frame and this one. So every update, it will add how much time has passed since the last update, essentially. So instead of saying time between frames, I'm basically saying update, since the last time we did this, how much time's passed? Add that on. Which might not work for this one because this is a fixed update. But and then in the game controller, we will then, when we end the level, we'll round all of these off to nice numbers. So I'm not saying you were looking up for 28.73819112 seconds. Instead, they're all nice numbers, and then we pass this to settings, secret, and then say, no, don't look at that. Then the end level stats, we pass that to the UI when it shows the end level screen, which means that in here, end level stats, we write this out on the end level screen. Right, now you might have got a little cheeky hint as to what the feature that saved my game was. You know, quite important feature I didn't have in the other release, and I think the game is infinitely better for it now. It really did save my game. It saved my game. I'm so sorry. But yes, I can now. You can save the game. You couldn't do that before. So before, all the levels were unlocked from the beginning, and if you closed the game and opened it again, it would start you from level 1 again. But you could play any of them. So it didn't really. It was, you know, it's not the way to experience a story, is it? It's not if somebody goes, here's a book, read the chapters in any order you want. That's not what you want. So, save system. You can now save. All of this is pretty much as Bracky's told me to do it, as usual. So we make a binary formatter because it's stored in binary. We then create the string path, so where it saves the file in your file explorer, and the save is formatted as a .peri file because I thought that was fun. And then we create it from the player data class. So this class is an int for how much you've looked up total, an int for how much power you've used total, and then an array of integers for how much you've looked up each level, how much power you've used each level, and the time you spent on each level. Now, the problem with this is, if we were to implement this just as Bracky said, it wouldn't work properly, because his example was for an RPG where all it stored was your health and your position. Now that's great, but your health and position change every time you play. Not all of these stats are going to change every time you play. So the problem is that every time we'd go to save, it would only save the latest stats. We couldn't save stats that we didn't interact with in this scene. We didn't load them or save them before. And every time you save it, it overwrites everything, because nothing is persistent. So what I did was I made this item here called settings, because it's a do not destroy on load object, which means that when you move from scene to scene, normally everything in that scene is destroyed and then everything in the new scene is loaded. But this won't be. This will stay loaded no matter what you do, no matter where you go. Every step you take, every move you make, it'll be watching you. And the reason I called it settings was originally this was going to be where you stored all of your settings. It was going to be like, oh, I want my resolution to be this, blah, 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 blah. But it turns out you don't need to do that. You can just sort of set it and then you don't have to interact with it again. Might need to when I set a settings menu in the pause screen, but for now it's just on the main menu. So when you go back to the main menu, you just find it there and update it. But I've added that as well. There wasn't settings before. So this was made with the intention of that, but it's not that yet. Yeah. So what we do is we have our arrays for lookup power time for on each level, and then we have the total of the power and the lookup. And what we do is we initialize these every time on a wake. So as soon as you go into the main menu, bam, settings, woken up, I want to get some stats, please. So we take player data.data, which comes from save system.loadGame, which in here, it's all a bit confusing, but stick with me, I promise. So load game will return player data. This function returns player data. So most functions are void, which means that they do what they're going to do, and they do it and they finish it, and that's it. Whereas some functions, you can say, I want to find out what you've done in this format. So what we're telling this is that load game, I want you to do what you're going to do and then pass back to wherever I told you to do this the data you've created in the format of player data, which is this class here. So we know what we're going to get. When we load the game, we're going to get 2 totals and 3 arrays of times and whatnot. So when we do, we want to set the numbers we store here to be what are in the save file. So looking up per level, timer per level, power use per level. These are all arrays, so you could just say this array equals this array. You don't have to do anything fancy. Now for the lookup total and power total, we go slightly differently. What we do is, when we initialize, we recalculate it just to be safe, just in case. So we say, for all of the lookup totals, so we start lookup total equals 0, and then for each lookup time in the lookup array, then we add it to our total. Same for the power, so then every time we load, we've got the proper stats just for whatever reason if they haven't been saved properly. And then, yeah, that's it. Well, that's not it, but that's how loading the game works. For saving the game, every time you finish a level here, we save the game. So we say settings.update stats. Update stats. We take in the level we've just played, the lookup time, the power used, and the time you played it. And we find the superlative stats, such a good word, basically just means best. We find the bestest stats if you've played this level before. So say, I played level 1, and then I played it again later on because I wanted to get a faster time. Well, what we do is we check if the time you just finished it is quicker than the time than we had for last time you stored that level, or if the level if the blah, blah, equals 0, the time. So if the time's 0, you've not played it before, so we're going to save it. But if you have played it before, then it's got to be a better time for us to save it. And then after that, we recalculate the stats again, because, you know, if we didn't do it here, you could play the whole game in one session. You get to the end, you go, yeah, you did it with 0 on everything, which isn't what we want. We want it to running total. So when you finish the game, that's where I was at, you save the stats in here, and then you save the game in here. And in here we create a new player data class, and when you create the player data class, it asks for a copy of the game controller, which we pass it to. We say save game and take me as tribute, and then what we do is we find the game and we use that to get a reference to the settings, which we've just updated, and we save all the settings here, and then we save all the settings here. Easy, I think. So yeah, I was quite proud of writing this. I wrote all this off the dome. These two were brackies, but it didn't work, so I adapted it and I overcame. And what's that meme? Put the meme up. Do not destroy on load is a tricky mistress. So if we have already spawned one, we want to destroy ourselves, because otherwise you'll get dupes of the settings script every time you go to the main menu, which isn't what you want. Because otherwise, when you spawn a new one, it'll overwrite the stats and you'll lose your saves and blah de blah de blah. Basically, if we don't have this here, this becomes like a clone problem, and we don't want that, as the Jedi will tell you. Now, I don't know how easy that all was to follow, and I feel like it might be a bit, you know, rambly and a bit dull. So to keep everybody's attention, I hope you enjoyed. I've put some footage of a game I made probably about 3 years ago that I never finished, called Robot Run. I know what you guys are like these days with the TikToks and the knickknacks and the paddywhacks and dogs and bones and all of that stuff. So yeah, have my Subway Surfers substitute. My substitute way surfers. Oh, life is a gift. And now we have a save file, we can do some nicer stuff with it. So we can actually say, for each wrong one, now we can actually say on the level select screen, we can loop through all of the levels that we've done and check if the time isn't equal to 0. And if it's not equal to 0, then we can activate the button for the next level. Because before, all the levels were there, you can just play whichever ones you want. And like I say, you don't want to do that. You don't want to start at the end. That makes no sense, apart from some Christopher Nolan films, I think. But yeah, now for all of the level buttons, loop through and check the time for that level. And if we've done it, then you can play that level in the next one. And then same with the main menu. What we do is we check the times in the settings and we store which level is the latest level. And then when we want to play a level, instead of just playing the first level like we used to, we now can play the latest one, +1, because the latest one is the one that... It's the one you've not finished yet. The one you haven't saved yet. That's the one. Now, one issue I did have with this is that this is in start. As you can tell with most things, we have... That's a class, that's a bad example. That doesn't have a start function. So we have a start, which is normally used to find all of your settings and whatnot, to initialize your variables, I should say. So I've got all these variables here, but they don't have anything in them yet. So what I do is, in start, I initialize them all so that they can be used. The problem is, the main menu uses start, the level controller uses start, and at the time, the settings menu used start. And I'm pretty sure the way it works is that it goes in order of the hierarchy in Unity. So the main menu's start would run first because it's here, and then the level select start is in a different scene, so that doesn't matter. But the settings isn't until down here. So this start function would be run after the main menu start function. And the main menu start function needs things from the settings start function. So now I've changed it to a wake, which is a fancy way of saying start, but a little bit earlier. Capuch? And lastly, I feel like I've fried your brains with all that chatting about code. So let's finish it off with maybe a tad more chatting about code. Okay, so a nice easy little update I made just to make the game a bit more easy, a bit more playable, a bit more interpretive. I don't know if that's the right word or if it even is a word, but I'm going to go with it and you can't stop me. So the change I made is that you may see here there's a new little light on Perry. What's that about? Well, this game has a lot of things that Perry can interact with, which is the term I've used in the code. Interactable. There's a little ball in Perry which says true or false. Can I press J and interact with something. So if you're over a sample, you can pick it up. If you're in an area where you can place a sample and you've got a sample in your tank, you can put it down. Or for certain objectives like this one, so in this level you've set up the satellite, but it needs power and it's not got any for a force field, so you go up to it and bing, that light turns on, which means I can press J and it will do something. I can press J again, it'll do something. I can press J again and it does it. Isn't that, how useful is that? And then it should turn off here, but it doesn't, which I only found out while recording this video, so I've not fixed that yet. But that leads me into, this caused a lot of bugs. So the way this works in the code is that if player.interactable is true, then we set the material to highlighted. If not, then we set it to not highlighted. Problem is that before I made this, the sample area would set the player as interactable no matter what. Even if, you know, the sample area was just an area where samples were that you could pick up. So you weren't interactable until you were over the samples, but it said you were, which isn't what you want. So I've had this test here. So if the objective we're connected to is equal to 1, which means an objective where we are placing samples, then we can set it to true. But then that led to another problem, because before this objective area dot connected objective set equals this, which is setting that this sample objective has a sample area in it, and that sample area doesn't know what this is unless it was a sample type of equal to 1. But what if it's not, and we need to check that in here now because of the new, because I didn't realise it was broken. So now I had to move that up here so that all of the sample areas had a connected objective, so that I could check if I had a connected objective of the right type, right? And then when I finished that, I realised that I didn't have this on trigger exit collider, so that whenever a player entered, they'd be set to interactable, and when they left, they didn't change. They were still interactable. So I had to check if they were in the right sample type area, and then set interactable to false. But now that's all working, apart from that one bug you saw just then, which I sound happy, but trust me, on the inside I am screaming. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next month, hopefully, probably, if I've not jumped out a window. It's so bloody hot. Jesus.